Hey folks, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Ajit and let's quickly jump onto it. As discussed in the last video, this time we're going to take a look at the problem statement and we're going to solve that problem. Necessarily, this is what we do with programming. We try to solve users' problem in the programmatic way. So let's try and use the knowledge that we have gained so far, and there will be plenty of used cases like these, which we will discuss in my tutorial series, so that you can apply all that knowledge that you have gained until that point. So yeah, let's go through it. Okay, with this, let's solve one problem. So the problem statement here is write a program to find sum of all odd and even numbers up to a number specified by the user. So for example, if I specify 10, I want to make sum of all the even numbers. So odd numbers, 7 plus 9, and I also want to bring the sum of all the odd numbers. So 0 is. So this is the solution that we want, but how do we achieve it with the help of a program, right? So we know that we could use range function here. Then we want to convert these two types. We want to separate these numbers in odd category and in even category, and then do the calculation. Okay, so number is again the input by the user. So we all know what is input, right? So how to accept input. So let's give it a prompt, enter any number, right? So user is going to enter the number, and let's save it in the variable, and let's call it number. Okay, so number is going to be any number inputted by the user. So this problem will remain there. I'm going to comment out the first line. That's our problem statement because we need to revisit that. So what do we want? We want a range that's from. So let's write the function call for I. Let's call it I. I is basically used for integer, commonly used in number. So for range, and the range should be until this number. Okay, so this is the number that we are looking for, and range is going to be this number, right? Because that's we took the input of this. We took the input from the user, and we're going to save it over here in this variable. We're going to use it to make the pull that range, right? So now what happens? So let's say for every item in range, then do what? Then we will need a couple of variables as well. So let's say odd, total of odd, let's call it total of odd, and let's call another total of even, right? So let's take even first because that just sounds about right. So we initiated two variables here, right? Total of even and total of odd, and we're going to initiate them with the value 0. So these are two numbers, and their starting value is 0. So as you remember, you could always reassign the values, correct? You could always do that. So in this particular condition, now that we are here in this for loop, we want to segregate this this range into lists. So we want to separate list. We want to calculate the separate list of even numbers, and then we want to get the list of odd numbers. So let's do that with the help of if-else function. Okay, so how do we bring the list of even numbers? So I just want you to think a little bit, pause the video for a moment and think, how do we print the list of even numbers? Okay, you have a number, and if you want to identify if that number is odd or even, if certain condition is met, it's even. If it's not, then it's going to be odd number. So you might want to revisit the math functions tutorial in my series. So any number whose remainder is 0 is called it will be the odd number. So if I and then modulus sign 2 is equal to 0, then that becomes the even number, right? So that becomes the even number. So what do we do in this case? So every time this list goes on the total even number, we're going to increment it with this value. Okay, so with this value. So in this case, you will only going to get the even values, right? So this number will be added by I. Okay, and now in other case else, we will do the other function, total odd plus I. So this statement is only going to take the even numbers, and the remaining one is, so there are only two conditions, odd or even. So the number can either be odd or even. That's why we're using else here, right? So yeah, that's about it. So this variable in the end becomes the total of the even numbers, and this becomes the total of the odd numbers. Now let's get out of this loop and print a function, and let's use formatted string, and total of even numbers is this. So let's use this total, this variable, because this value is going to get reassigned, and print another statement, and let's call it odd numbers, and here let's add this. Now let's run our program and see what happens. Okay, so I'm just going to clear the console, enter any number. So it's asking for the input first. So let's say I want to enter 11. Sorry, the string object cannot be interpreted as integer. Okay, so there is a one major mistake we made, and this is what I wanted you to understand. Anytime you take input, it will always be interpreted as a string value by Python interpreter. Okay, so if you want to convert that number, convert that input in an integer, then you need to do this, you know, and we have already seen this in one of our videos, right? So so here is the total that we got. So the total number of even numbers is 30, and the total number of odd numbers is 25. Okay, so if you want to check the calculation, you can use your calculator and do that manually and verify if this function is behaving correctly. Now our code is dynamic, if you have noticed, because it's not just a hard-coded number that we're looking for. We're taking input from the user and then doing the calculation, right? So you could see this as well. So if you enter the number 21, it's going to bring the total of even numbers and odd numbers separately. If you just go through this problem again and try to analyze how I solve this problem, you'll probably understand how easier it is to solve even complex looking problems. Remember the indentation, don't miss that. There is often I have seen many people missing colons many times, and that's why there is an error. So remember this colon always, and then remember this indentation. Okay, so this block is inside this if statement. Okay, it's a part of the for loop, but this is specifically the part of if statement. Similarly with here, and this entire statement becomes the part of the for loop, and we have indented it back to the beginning, you know, and that's why these two statements are out of the for loop. That's all in this Python's tutorial video. If you like my videos, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you.